Hi there, welcome to this Sunday edition of This Is Exclusive, in which we are going to get to you an exclusive ground report and a reporter live from Tel Aviv, as also experts explaining to us whether there is a clear and present danger of a nuclear radiation leak from the nuclear sites that have been hit by the United States overnight in Iran. If no, then why? And if yes, then what happens next? That's our focus, as also some American guests coming in to explain to us the implications of the American strikes and how we go forward from here. All that and more. Let's begin with the headlines.
We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says United States strikes on key sites in Iran have completely devastated the Iranian nuclear program. France urges restraint diplomacy after concerning U.S. strikes on Iran. Post-strike images at Fordo nuclear site show damage after U.S. bombed those sites. Prime Minister Modi speaks to Iran President Pezeshkian, calls for immediate de-escalation. With massive escalation, Iran Foreign Minister to meet President Putin tomorrow. All right, welcome friends. The strikes that the United States carried out on Iran's nuclear sites early in the morning have ignited a firestorm of controversy and concern. While the US may view this action as a necessary measure to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions, it raises questions about the legality and wisdom of such move. The potential for escalation is high, and the humanitarian consequences of such strikes could be devastating. As the situation unfolds, it's crucial for all the parties involved to exercise restraint, and that's been India's position as well, with Prime Minister Modi speaking to President Pezeshkian and in that call emphasizing the need to de-escalate. The path forward requires careful consideration of the long-term implications and a commitment to finding a peaceful resolution that addresses the security concerns of all nations in the region. Now, if you read between the lines, there is definitely an element of signaling from the United States when President Trump says that he knows where the supreme leader is hiding, but they are not targeting him. And then Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, in a briefing just a while back from Washington, D.C., from Pentagon, said that regime change is not or was not the objective of the operation called Midnight Hammer, carried out to obliterate, as Hegseth said, the nuclear infrastructure or the nuclear bomb-making infrastructure of Iran, which United States claims they have done successfully. We have a guest lineup to understand the implications. Rajiv Nayan, head of Center for Nuclear Issues and Arms Control at the Manohar Parrikar Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis, and then we also have Adrian Calamel. He's a geopolitical expert. He joins us from the United States. And we also have Professor Daniel Pipes. He's from the Middle East Forum. He's someone who has expertise on the geography. Both Adrian and Professor Daniel Pipes, welcome to you to this broadcast. And I would want to begin with you, Rajiv Nayan. First, a quick question. Whether there is any fear of nuclear leaks. We have it from the IAEA saying that no, they have not seen anything unusual as yet off-site in terms of any radiation leak. We have this confirmation from Iran and also from the Saudis. What happens in this kind of situation? Can we safely assume that there is no question whatsoever of any leak, or it's just that as of now nobody is noticing it? It can happen sometime later, given the fact that there is tremendous amount of radioactive material that's present at these kind of sites.
No, if you read the update number 4 of International Atomic Energy Agency, especially it's after the 3 attacks which had happened today, or after United States attacked Iranian facilities, this update is after that. So in this, it has not given any suo motu statement. It is basically citing Iranian authorities' statement. But the 3 notes you can say, or updates you can say, it talks about updates. 1, 2, 3, it seems these 3 updates emanated from IAEA's own facilities. It has got facilities and it has got its own monitoring stations all over the world. And it seems the earlier 3 updates came from those stations.
Right.
And in all those updates, it indicates, IAEA indicates,
right,
that there is no radiological fallout danger. So it speaks a lot. First question arises why, and it seems, and as the advisor to the Speaker of Iranian Parliament in early morning stated that they had already shifted all the critical, not only materials, but critical goods out of these sites. It means there could be an understanding between the Iranian authority or Iranian government or Iranian establishment and the rest of the world, or those who are attacking. Okay, we'll destroy the facilities, we'll destroy the centers or all the nuclear different facilities, like the one for uranium conversion, second chemical, and there are many there are some research reactors. So many, I think, plants were there. So we'll destroy them, but please remove all the materials so that there is no radiation.
Oh, you are suggesting, Rajiv Nayan, that maybe there was enough signaling beforehand to help Iran remove whatever material it wanted to. Is that so?
So it looks like, and second is, like earlier, one of the updates of IAEA informs or notes that some low enriched uranium may have been attacked, but radiation is contained. Means there is no danger.
So we can safely say that there is no radiation whatsoever as of now, and it's unlikely that even in future it would happen.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So about the third, today's wave of attack, which United States had launched, I think on that IAEA doesn't appear to be giving an independent assessment. It is basically quoting the Iranian authority. In fact, the two Iranian
why would Iran want, if the suggestion is that the Iranians might not be giving true picture, why would the Iranians not want to give true picture of radiation leak? Because it's on their land, their territory, their soil.
The release also says that, as of now, and this is contained, the radiation may be contained in the facilities. So you never know. So tomorrow, yes, you are right. Tomorrow we may have.
Tomorrow we might hear something, but as of today, not. Okay, fair enough. Let me go to, stay with us, Mr. Nayan, and let me go to our American guests. To you first, Professor Daniel Pipes, with your understanding, deep understanding of the Middle East, please tell us how it pans out from here on. Pete Hegseth, just a while back, in his press conference from the Pentagon, said that regime change was not part of the mission objectives of Operation Midnight Hammer. So, which means from the Americans, there is clear signaling that if Iran does nothing now, we are fine. It ends here.
Almost. I think you have to look at this operation in the context of the attack on Afghanistan in 2001 Afghanistan 2001 and Iraq 2003. Both of those led to massive American efforts occupation, attempts to change the regime, build a new regime, and basically 20 plus years later, both failed. And the American public doesn't want to do this again. So there's no aspiration to go into Tehran, to take over the country, to establish a new regime. This is emphatically the case. This is a one-time strike to take out the nuclear infrastructure. However, it is not necessarily the last American strike, because the president made it clear that the Iranians must accept that they will no longer enrich uranium. If they insist on enriching uranium, if they rebuild, then there could well be further attacks. So the hope is, from the American perspective, that this will cause Khamenei and whoever else is in charge to come to the conclusion that enrichment is over, accept the American terms, and then there will be no more military action. So it all depends now on Khamenei and his circle. Do they accept the ending of enrichment, or do they insist on continuing with enrichment of uranium?
All right. So it's an expectation, rather, from the United States side that the Iranians get the message and stop messing around, as Trump would say it. Let me get an Adrian on this. Adrian, there is this another view that while the facilities where uranium enrichment was happening have been taken down with these strikes at all these three places, Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo, most importantly, the fact remains that the uranium, which was already enriched, and Iran, by some estimates, has some stockpile of that, which possibly might have been removed. So while the facilities where uranium can be enriched are gone, the enriched uranium itself is still there. So if nothing stops Iran from building a bomb at some other place.
Good question. I mean, we really have to look at the battle damage assessments. We haven't seen what, this operation is still ongoing. The operational security has been very tight. We still don't know exactly all of the targets that were hit by the Israelis leading up to the United States operation that take out Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Now, as far as moving and diverting nuclear stockpiles material, that's one thing. The big issue on the card was knocking all the centrifuges, 14,000 at Natanz, taking them all offline, and then hitting all the thousands upon thousands of centrifuges at Fordo. That was the near and present danger and the most proximate danger. Now, and good question about the diversion of nuclear material, because this was really the concern that everybody had, was once they militarize it, and they were rapidly going towards that, what happens when they move it, when they divert it? Then it becomes impossible to keep track of. Then it can possibly move on to their proxies. And also, push it to other groups, such as Al-Qaeda, who they have considered, Al-Qaeda calls the Islamic Republic their core facilitation pipeline. That's straight from bin Laden. So, they could have moved material. They can and still have the ability to slowly rebuild if they want to, but the United States is not going to let them do that. And as far as a regime change, that wasn't the objective, but that very well could be the outcome, because at some point you got to expect that, at least 85 of the 92 a billion Iranians are going to want to take back their country, which poses another problem to the regime. The West has suffered from a mirror imaging error that we can sit down and talk with this regime and keep coming to outcomes that are going to stop, curb their behavior, stop their pursuit of a nuclear weapon, and it's failed repeatedly and over again. All they respond to is force, and you take away their crown jewel. Khamenei's crown jewel of Fordo is a clear sign, because he thought the nuclear program was critical to the survival of the regime. It's up in smokes now.
Right. I wonder if just, the entire raison d'etre of the regime in Iran was just this nuclear program. But I do not, I closely track what's happening there on the ground, and I do not see any signs as yet of some kind of rebellion building against the government there and against Ayatollah Khamenei. But coming back to you, Professor Pipes, We have it from the foreign minister of Iran, Arakchi, that he's traveling to Moscow and is going to meet President Putin. We have Medvedev, the former president of Russia, who has taken a very strong position and saying that this bombing does not stop Iran from making a bomb and that others might help. He's indicating possibly the Russians who are present at the Bushehr nuclear plant, possibly the Chinese, they might help Iran get a nuclear bomb now sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, he is very threatening on Ukraine, on Iran, and virtually every topic. Not sure how seriously one should take his comments. He was the president, but he doesn't have much power now. But the deeper point is correct, that Iran has two very major, powerful allies in Russia and China, and they could certainly help with a nuclear project. However, why would they do that? Why would they want a Shiite-oriented Islamist regime to have nuclear weapons? Does this really enhance their security in Russia or China? I doubt it. Note that the Russian aid and the Chinese aid to Iran has been very limited over the decades. For example, the Iranian Air Force still dates back to the 1970s, to the American aircraft it purchased way back in the 1970s. Deeply antiquated aircraft that basically are useless. The Russians and Chinese have not provided, have not sold, have not given. So if they haven't given aircraft, I'm skeptical that they would provide the means for Iran to get quickly to nuclear weaponry with their aid. Possible, but doesn't look likely.
Doesn't look like that. Okay, and I have a couple of more questions, Professor Pipes. Just picking up your brains on what happens at the NATO leaders summit in a couple of days. That's taking place in Europe. The European security umbrella is broken. The United States is not listening to Europe on this. Trump, of course, is not. While America says peace with strength, Europe seems to be in a position where it's seeking peace without strength. What happens at the NATO summit as it pans out in a couple of days from now, Professor Pipes?
I would expect that the Europeans, the NATO allies, will be critical. It's easy to be critical. The United States has done the heavy lifting, has done the actual work, and now you can criticize the United States freely without any consequences. At the same time, I would expect that the Europeans, like most of the Middle East, is happy with this, is delighted that Iran has less of a prospect of nuclear weaponry than it did yesterday, and then even more so 2 weeks ago. So I would look to formal condemnations and practical enthusiasm for the American step, as well as the Israeli step.
Right.
The Chancellor of Germany was exceptional in that he said that the Israelis are doing our dirty work. He thanked the Israelis, but that's highly unusual. Most leaders say Israel and the United States now are doing the wrong thing.
All right. And Adrian, tell me if my reading is right. President Trump says that he knows where Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei is, but he's not the target. Pete Hegseth says that regime change is not the objective. They have helped Israel take down entire nuclear infrastructure with those buster bombs that Israel does not have. The larger Middle East, as Professor Pipes says, is happy and okay that Iran is not getting its Shia bomb. This far and no further, because remember, the Trump administration would be under pressure at the U.S. Congress also. We have the likes of Scott Ritter, we have the likes of Chris Murphy, we have the likes of Sanders, Warren, and Andrea Ocasio-Cortez, everyone saying that this is illegal what has happened. So obviously, Trump administration might want to draw the line here and tell Israel, okay, fine, your objectives are done, now pull back.
Well, great questions. I don't believe Chris Murphy, AOC, or any of those individuals are serious individuals that should be weighing in on foreign policy. They've gotten it wrong repeatedly, especially Chris Murphy. But, I don't know what the question was, but the strike, these strikes were done to, take out the nuclear program, to send a clear message. It's also another message to the regime, to the supreme leader. And Trump was very clear, do not strike back. Do not try anything, or else you will face greater consequences. And this would be another miscalculation by Khamenei if he decided to attack U.S. interests. He's miscalculated grossly since October 7th, and he's seen his entire command structure, from Ali Shamkhani all the way down to other Revolutionary Guards members to Basij Corps. Trump does know where, in Mossad and intelligence, we probably likely know where Khamenei is, one of his multiple hiding places. Now, is the most effective way a decapitation strike? No, I don't think so right now. If you look at Israel's approach against Hezbollah, it was to completely clear the management structure from the ground up, the most dangerous individuals, and then leave Nasrallah all alone by himself up at the very top. So and also Trump with that message, I think that was also a very clear, this was before Fordo, Natanz, before our strikes. This was also, I think, a bit of a messaging game saying, we know where you are, don't try anything crazy, or else we're going to hit you.
I believe the message is taken by all sides. So there is messaging for Iran, there is messaging for Israel, there is messaging for NATO, there is messaging for the larger Middle East. And I believe if everyone takes, then we are in a state of happy equilibrium, is the point I was making. Rajiv Nayan, Prime Minister Modi has spoken to President Pezeshkian, and the MEA statement calls for de-escalation. That's the sum and substance of the conversation that happened between the two leaders. You think India's position is very balanced and nuanced, that since we say that this is not an era of war, it should apply to all geographies, including the Middle East, and hence even the United States should pull back?
Yeah, look, we all know that Iranian nuclear issue is a very complicated issue. And Tulsi Gabbard, one the official, very important official of United States, has been maintaining and that there is no movement towards bomb making by Iran. At the same time, we can understand Israeli concern, because the way Iran is upgrading its capability, upgrading its enlistment prowess, so it has got all the reasons to become worried. So, but somehow a way is to be found out. So this is what India, as you rightly pointed out, this is what India is trying to do, to find a way out so that Israeli security is also ensured. At the same time, Iran doesn't face this kind of attack, and it is a massive attack by both countries, and Iran is also retaliating. So the entire region is disturbed, and it is going to impact on not only the global economy, but also security of other countries. And it's a complicated and complex way may come into being, and some vested interest may exploit the situation. And very interestingly, my old friend Daniel Pipes is talking about the world #1 terrorist, that is Iran. But why are they forgetting about Pakistan?
Yeah,
so Pakistan, I think, is the #1 supporter of the global terrorism, and somehow it is finding a space in the American security establishment by default, with Iran, with Israelis and others also. So I think the world needs to pay attention to this country. And as reports are coming, and I read, and in Western media is also reporting, that soft corner of Donald Trump towards Pakistan is because it wants to find a new base.
Rajiv Nayan,
Pakistan.
Yeah,
so that is unfortunate.
That's another layer, in fact, and that's a separate conversation we will have perhaps soon after this Middle East crisis is behind us. On that note, I would thank all my guests for joining us. Rajiv Nayan, Adrian Calamel, and of course, Professor Daniel Pipes, with your fantastic perspective on the evolving situation in the Middle East. I'm staying with the story, thanking the guests, but going live to Tel Aviv, where we have Ratnadeep joining us live from outside one of those places that were hit earlier in the morning by Iran. Ratnadeep, coming to you. And Iran Parliament, okay, there is a breaking news development. Let's look at that first. There is a resolution in the Iranian Parliament. US strikes have prompted a retaliatory move now. And final decision has been left with the Supreme Council, which is headed by, of course, the Supreme Leader, which is Ayatollah Khamenei. Iranian Parliament has approved closing the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, that's a big one. The Strait of Hormuz is being closed by Iran. That's a big one. I would have had the guests, in fact, but let's go to Ratnadeep first. If we can keep one of those guests and come back to them after this. Ratnadeep, over to you. I believe you are outside at a place close to where Iranian strikes happened in the morning. But since then, I believe there is calm. Iran has not retaliated again. You think it's tapering off? Are you getting a sense on the ground that Iran might not have been left with much of ammunition and ammo to hit back at Israel now, and that we might be looking at de-escalation?
It's quite a probability, and that's what the Israelis have been thinking as well. Let me tell you, from the morning, it's been 8 hours since the last strike, and there has not been any silence going on. It's been awfully quiet right now, and there is a sense that maybe there is a chance of de-escalation from here, because one of the only thing that the Israelis are scared at this point of time is more civilian population being harmed, and the Iranians have already been mutilated, the air defense system, their missile launchers. So it's good in favor for Iranians to actually back down at this point of time.
All right, and before I let you go, Ratnadeep, quickly, is calm prevailing in the streets across Tel Aviv? Are you getting a sense that normalcy is returning?
I wouldn't say that, because the transportation here is running on 35 to 40% only right now. There's still an emergency protocol being followed on the streets. And most importantly, yesterday when I went there on the streets to report, I saw there were more number of people out on the beaches, out on the streets, out on the parks. But today, it's especially North Tel Aviv, where we have been reporting from the morning, it's awfully quiet. Very few people on the streets, very few people on the beaches today as well. It's been really quiet since morning.
All right. Thank you so much, Ratnadeep, for joining us with those updates from Tel Aviv, where we saw Iranian strikes early in the morning. The situation in the Middle East is still evolving, friends. The latest is that Iran has decided to block the Strait of Hormuz. Remember, that's very significant because almost 1/5 or more of oil and gas supplies of the world pass through that every day, and pretty much 80% more and more are meant for Asia. In fact, about half of India's supplies come from Strait of Hormuz. That's a significant development and has serious security and energy security implications for India and the rest of the world. We're going to continue to focus on that, but we've run out of time in this broadcast. Short break. On the other side, we're coming back with more.
Co-powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho befikar.
In the India Today Best Universities Survey, India's #1 ranked universities in various streams are JNU Delhi, Amity University, AIMS Delhi, IIT Delhi, and National Law School Bengaluru.
MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल, ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े, क्या निराला MDH मसाला।
आपकी फेवरेट हुंडई कार्स पर मिल रही है अमेजिंग डील्स। वैसे लोगे तो आप हुंडई ही, चाहे दिल की सुनो या डील्स की, तो जल्दी चले आओ हुंडई शोरूम।
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
MDH।
A short time ago, the U.S.
I don't just report from courtrooms on verdicts, I decode them. From breaking news to complex legal verdicts, every word is backed by law. At the Republic School of Journalism, you will learn how to report on legal issues with accuracy and speed. The RSJ Diploma, starting on the 30th of June. Apply now.
A very warm welcome, viewers. You're watching Republic TV and I'm Rakhta Mishra with you. Republic TV keeps a close eye on the developments coming in from West Asia. And the latest, the Iranian parliament has approved the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. What impact could it have? Well, that's of course a big point of discussion. First, let's get you the headlines. Iranian parliament approves the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the global oil shipment route.
We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says United States strikes on key sites in Iran has completely devastated the Iranian nuclear program. France urges restrained diplomacy and concerning U.S. strikes on Iran. Post-strike images at Fordo nuclear site show damage after U.S. bombs Iran. Prime Minister Modi speaks to Iran president, calls for immediate de-escalation. With massive escalation, Iran foreign minister to meet Vladimir Putin tomorrow. So we start with the big breaking news. Iran's parliament has approved a measure to close the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, a key global oil shipping route following United States strike on Iran's nuclear sites. State-run Press TV has reported Major General Qasari, member of Parliament's National Security Committee of Iran, told the state media that while the parliament has reached a consensus in favor of closing the strait, the final decision rests with Iran's Supreme National Security Council, the country's highest security authority. It's the big breaking news we have right now. The impact of the escalation in West Asia is having an impact across the globe. If the Strait of Hormuz is finally closed, this is a final decision that rests with the Supreme Council. And in fact, we have Terry Newman, who is geopolitical expert, joining us from Tel Aviv right now. Terry Newman, well, it was very much speculated that Iran might just, go ahead with the move. Of course, there is the final action that is yet to be taken, but this is going to have implications for the world. Terry, I think, can you hear me, Terry?
Difficult to hear you. Hello?
Yeah, Terry, can you hear me now? I'll just repeat my question.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes. So, yes, I can hear you very well.
Yes, the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, so the implications for the...
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is actually a move that will damage Iran far more than it will damage either the United States or the United States allies. The United States is now the largest...
There seems to be a problem with the network with you, Terry.
In the world.
All right.
So it's no longer... This is hello?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so the United States is now the largest of oil in the world, thanks to the shale oil and gas, etc. So the biggest loser from this will be Iran itself. Europe is importing more and more LNG, liquefied natural gas, from the United States and also from the Eastern Mediterranean. And this again goes back to the IMEC. This is precisely why we were looking for overland routes in order to get energy into Europe from these areas, because we were, people were concerned about what Iran was going to do. But in the long term, this will just isolate Iran more. How will they be selling their energy into China? This will put more pressure on the BRI. It's a stupid move, and I think it's what's classically called in English cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Terry, you feel that this move, if it really is really acted on, you feel that there will be any sort of, as Iran expects, that there might be some, if not de-escalation, but some impact or any change of strategy from Israel, or Israel is going to go ahead with what its plans are?
Israel has a very stable and clear vision that the most dangerous country in the world should not have the most dangerous weapons in the world. As we speak, both Israeli and American teams are analyzing the results of the preemptive strikes on the Fordow, Isfahan and Natanz sites yesterday, and then they will come to their conclusions and will act on those. But America does not want to invade Iran and turn it into the 51st state. Israel has no territorial claims on Iran. This is purely defensive to prevent a Islamo-fascist regime that has been calling death to America and death to Israel for the last 40 years.
Right, Terry. Just stay on with us. We have some more breaking news coming in right now. The IRGC-affiliated fast news agency has cited sources saying that Iran's response to the United States strikes on its nuclear facilities will be, quote-unquote, to carry out surprise operations against Israel while continuing to monitor U.S. bases in the region, unquote. In fact, the sources also added that Iran's main focus is to eliminate, as they say, the Zionist regime as the original base of America. So the U.S. bases are under watch right now, Terry, but there is no direct, retaliation, what we understand, because the U.S. might is far greater for Iran. But the fact that the warnings keep coming in from Tehran, and now they are talking about a surprise operation against Israel. How do you see this?
Well, I mean, let's remember this morning, the attacks on Fordow and Isfahan and Natanz happened in the middle of the night. This morning at 7:30, another 35 missiles were fired at Israel, of which a number of them sadly actually got through all the various interception mechanisms and have caused a significant amount of damage here. But Iran has been doing this for decades. You talk about de-escalation. Iran has, it blew up the marine base in Lebanon. It blew up the Israeli embassy in Argentina. It's been behind bombings and murders of Americans and Jews throughout the world for decades now. We still don't understand why the Ayatollahs have made this such an integral part of their foreign policy, but it is. And so we have to do something about it before they get their hands on a nuclear weapon. So I don't see anything new in it, but we do have to be alert. And, also in India, you have a Jewish community in India, and you have a lot of American expats in India. And there you should be cautious as well.
All right, there's two things before I let you go there. Iranian foreign minister is set to meet Vladimir Putin. How do you see that development? How do you anticipate a Russian reaction from here? And also the fact that in Israeli army says that there are more goals in Iran that are left. And what do you think they're insinuating? Is it the fall? Is it the fall of the Iranian regime that is taking out Ayatollah Khamenei?
Excellent question. So regarding the first question, listen, Russia is a nuclear-armed country. They could have turned around and said at any time in the last week, if America invades Iran, we will use our nuclear option against America. And they didn't. By the way, China could have done that as well, and they didn't. And North Korea could have done that, and Pakistan could have done that. None of them did it. So it's all very well, afterwards, the Russians saying something, but when they were actually needed, they disappeared. Regarding your second question, we are aware of hundreds of kilograms of enriched uranium, somewhere in the region of 60% plus. That's about 15 tennis ball sizes of enriched uranium that could each then be further enriched into 90%, which is weapons grade. As I said earlier, the various militaries, both the Israeli intelligence community and the Americans, are trying to work out where they are. Our assumption is they were obviously removed from Fordo before. That's very important to prevent the Iranians using these in some other form of bomb.
All right. And you think that, taking out Khamenei is imminent right now, or there is still, there's still more time?
Israel, this is take out Khamenei. Israel doesn't take out we don't do things like in Syria. It's different from a terrorist organization, right? Which carried a bit. In Syria, we didn't take out Assad. The Syrians took out Assad. And I see the same thing happening in Iran as well. It's not for us.
Right.
It's for them.
All right, so the more tensions and civil war situation in Iran that is brewing up that you're pointing towards, we've got that. Thank you so much, Terry, for joining us on the broadcast with your expert views on that, viewers. So in the heart of the West Asia, viewers, two nations are bound by ancient histories, but they're divided by modern ambitions today, and they have clashed for decades now. Iran and Israel, once unlikely allies, now sworn enemies. This is not a proxy war. This is not a Cold War. This is direct. This is personal. Israel, Iran, one-on-one. And no one is backing down from it. Here's a report on that.
The skies above the Middle East are burning. Cities in lockdown. Missiles in flight. Hypersonic weapons tear through airspace, and beneath the surface, nuclear facilities smolder. This is not a proxy war. This is not a Cold War. This is direct. This is personal. Israel, Iran, one-on-one, and no one is backing down. In the heart of the Middle East, two nations bound by ancient histories but divided by modern ambitions have clashed for decades. Iran and Israel, once unlikely allies, now sworn enemies.
Before 1979 revolution, before the establishment of the Islamic regime in Tehran, Iran and Israel had excellent bilateral relationship. And Iran happened to be one of the first few Muslim majority country which gave recognition to the newly created state of Jews after modern Turkish Republic. Israel and Iran came very close being the Western ally. Even though Israel was not formally part of the CENTO, but Israel always had an excellent military and strategic relationship with Iran.
Under the Pahlavi dynasty, Iran recognized Israel in 1948, becoming the second Muslim majority nation to do so. In those early years, shared fears of Arab nationalism and Soviet influence forged a quiet alliance. In 1956, Suez War cemented that bond. Mossad, the intelligence agency of Israel, and Savak, the intelligence agency of Iran, worked covertly to bolster Kurdish rebels against Iran's Sunni regime. In 1973, as the Arab world launched an oil embargo against the West for backing Israel, Iran stepped in, fueling Europe and America. In 1977, the alliance peaked with Project Flower, a joint missile program. But in 1979, the Islamic Revolution changed everything. Ayatollah Khomeini's rise turned Iran into an Islamic republic. Israel became the enemy, and Palestine became Iran's cause.
Post-revolution Iran, the entire policy changed primarily because of the ideological dimension of the revolution. Because the Iranian Islamic Revolution was essentially, fundamentally aimed at the Western imperialism, Western cultural influence. Creation of Israel was considered by the Ayatollahs or the Islamic leadership in Iran as something un-Islamic, and because it was against the interests of the Muslim, because this particular state was created in what they call the Islamic space.
Decades later, the enmity now defines the Middle East. One narrow and coastal, the other sprawling and mountainous. One guarded by the Iron Dome, the other bristling with proxies and missiles. The conflict simmered for decades, then exploded in a chain of events that brought the region to the brink. In 2020 came the big breakout in the chain of events. A US drone backed by Israeli intelligence killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, head of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the feared paramilitary force of Iran, and the key aide of Ayatollah Khamenei. The gloves were off. On October 7th, thousands of Iran-backed Hamas terrorists stormed through the Israel's border with the Gaza Strip, killing 1,200 people. At least 240 people were abducted as hostages into Gaza. This attack was conceived as revenge against the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. The horrific terror attack was immediately justified as revenge of Soleimani assassination by Iran. This was not just provocation extraordinary, it was a challenge to Israel's existence. If Hamas succeeded, Israel failed.
Israel is at war. We didn't want this war. It was forced upon us in the most brutal and savage way. But though Israel didn't start this war, Israel will finish it. We will exact a price that will be remembered by them and Israel's other enemies for decades to come.
Israel responded with a devastating military campaign in the Gaza Strip called Operation Iron Swords. The counteroffensive aimed at rooting out Hamas in its entirety, whatever the cost, whatever the time it took. Since then, the Gaza war has claimed over 40,000 lives, including 18,000 children as per Hamas, even as over 100 Israeli hostages continue to remain in captivity of Hamas. and almost the entire leadership of Hamas eliminated. This is how the political chief Yahya Sinwar was taken down. And Israel assassinated Ismail Haniyeh inside Iran. From Soleimani to Haniyeh, and the second proxy of Iran in Lebanon, Hezbollah, whose chief Hassan Nasrallah was also killed by Israel in September last year. Israel left Iran looking defanged and disarmed. Only till June 12th, that is. On 12th June, the UN nuclear watchdog IAEA formally found that Iran wasn't complying with its nuclear obligation for the first time in 20 years. That Iran was enriching weapons-grade uranium, and that it was doing so at a breakneck pace. On the very next day, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion against Iran, a full-scale air campaign targeting Iran's nuclear site Natanz, Isfahan, Mashhad. Iran's nuclear sites, radar installations and missile silos were all bombed in quick succession.
پشت سر من تصویر محل اصابت موشک‌های دشمنان هستند به سایت هسته شهید احمدی روشن مجتمع غنیسازی سایت نتنز. با توجه به اینکه ما ساعت حدوداً 4:15 بود که صدای انفجار رو شنیدیم حرکت کردیم به سمت مسیر در واقع سایت هست.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons.
Iran has claimed that in the last 1 week, over Iran's 120 surface-to-surface missile launchers were destroyed. From western Iran to the skies above Tehran, the IDF has declared air supremacy over Iran.
Over the past few months, intelligence has shown that Iran is closer than ever to obtaining a nuclear weapon. This morning, the IDF began preemptive and precise strikes targeting the Iranian nuclear program in order to prevent the Iranian regime's ability to build a nuclear bomb in the immediate time frame.
The damage is undeniable.
This is the hole that made just one ballistic missile that was fired from Iran towards a residential area in the center of Israel. Meters from here, there are kindergarten, schools, a lot of buildings with innocent people living there. And you can see the impact. One blast of a ballistic missile destroys anything with the shock wave in a radius of around 500 meters. And Iran continued to bombard Israel with hundreds of those kind of missiles.
The US Embassy in Tel Aviv is hit. Global diplomats scramble.
You can see behind me the American Embassy in Tel Aviv, and this is not damaged from the outside, at least from the shock wave of the ballistic missile that was fired from Iran, but still all the places next to the embassy suffering from a damage. Here usually people are doing the passport photos for the passport, leaving their stuff in those safes.
This isn't just Iran versus Israel. It's a battlefield of alliances as global powers weigh in.
Sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens.
I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
American president has been quiet and secretive and vague about what is called end game in this war.
We're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say I was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel, nice guy, but he doesn't get it right too often. But we're not looking. We're looking for better than a ceasefire.
There are series of threats and counter threats being made by the world leaders as well as the actors directly involved.
Great people, they know how to protect themselves.
And when you say better, what?
Oh, we'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard that the gloves are off so beautifully. Now, I think they know not to touch our troops.
Khamenei in return is also openly threatening US against any military intervention. In a dramatic turn of events, President Trump said that his patience has run out. Meanwhile, Ayatollah Khamenei has declared that the country will never surrender. However, Iranian ambassadors are hoping for the West to intervene and de-escalate.
Please accept our assurances that the Iranian side, in Iranian system, there is no desire, there is no any intention to produce the nuclear bomb.
Iranians have upped the ante with the use of hypersonic missiles on Israel. On 18 June, Iran escalated by launching Fatah missiles on Israel in what they called to be the beginning of the end of Israel's air defenses.
موشک‌های قدرتمند و مانورپذیر فتاح امشب با عبور از سپر دفاع موشکی پناهگاه بزدلان صهیونیست را بارها لرزاند و پیام اقتدار ایران را به همپیمان جنگ افروز تل‌آویو که در خیالات و توهمات پوچ است ارسال کرد.
Today, Iran launched another missile attack on Israel. Number of Iranian missiles were intercepted in several Israeli cities, including Jerusalem and Tel Aviv today. Reports claim that this ongoing week-long conflict has killed around 639 people in Iran and 24 in Israel. Tehran's streets are choked with fleeing families. Israelis are taking shelter in bunkers and the world holds its breath. Iran and Israel, once strong allies, now bitter foes, mirror each other's fear and resolve. Can restraint prevail, or will this war redraw the map of the Middle East?
Co-powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho befikar.
Hi, this is Chef Ranveer Brar. Guarantee you brilliance on behalf of IAHM.
MDH की देगी मिर्च,
देगी मिर्च का तड़का, अंग अंग फड़का।
MDH की देगी मिर्च।
विमल में गुलिस्तान की ये कुछ लजीज फरिश्ते जब साथ घुले तो जी ललचाए और दिल कहे कि स्वाद की इस जुबान में खुद को ऐसा डुबाऊं कि निकल ना पाऊं। विमल की जुबान कुछ है ही ऐसी, मानते हैं ना? विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल, ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े, क्या निराला MDH मसाला।
welcome. You're watching Republic TV with me, Akanksha Khajuria. Today is day 10th of the Iran-Israel conflict. US has entered the fray and has destroyed the 3 nuclear sites in Iran. We'll get you more information on this, but as always, the headlines first. Iranian parliament has approved the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the global oil shipment route.
We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word.
U.S. Defense Secretary says that United States has struck key sites in Iran and they have completely devastated the nuclear program. France has urged restraint diplomacy after concerning U.S. strikes on Iran. Post-strike images at the nuclear site Fordo shows damage after U.S. bombarded Iran. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken to Iran President, calls for immediate de-escalation. And with massive escalation, Iran Foreign Minister will be meeting Putin tomorrow. Well, in a stunning and unprecedented strike, the United States has unleashed the full force of its arsenal targeting Iran's most secure nuclear facilities. This is not just a warning, but a thunderous message from Washington, D.C. that stand down or face the action. Backed by Israeli coordination, B-2 stealth bombers flew undetected, delivering GBU-57 bunker busters with surgical precision. Today, Natanz, Fordo and Isfahan lie shattered right now, and the Middle East stands on the edge of this abyss. In fact, we have breaking news coming in. Iran's parliament has approved a measure to close the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, a key global oil shipping route following the US strikes on Iran's nuclear site. In fact, the Major General has a member of the Parliament's National Security Committee has told state media that while the Parliament has reached a consensus in favor of closing this very way, the final decision rests with the Iran Supreme National Security Council, the country's highest security authority. And this is the breaking update that we're getting for you from Iran. It is considering closing the key oil shipping routes, that is Strait of Hormuz, after US bombarded 3 of the nuclear facilities. All right, I'm joined by Major General SVP Singh, this defense expert. Thank you so much for speaking to Republic TV. The breaking news that we're getting for you at this moment is that Iran is thinking of closing the key oil shipping route, and that is the Strait of Hormuz. What impact, according to you, this will have as far as the entire country and that shipping way is concerned?
Well, it is going to cause a choke in the artery of the global oil economy. It's a very bold step which Iran has taken. It was one of the options which was being considered that they will implement it. But by so doing, it is also going to cause a lot of chaos and trouble in the 8 Gulf countries, oil exporting nations who are in this Persian Gulf area. And so there will be revenue losses, there will be supply chain chaos which will follow, and oil importing countries will suffer like India. It will trigger a severe economic shock, rising inflation, a falling rupee for us, and surging import bills. So this is the impact which is going to have. But when Israel has taken this step, you see, there are 8 islands in this Persian Gulf, one of which is with Oman, other 7 are with Iran. Now, they would be a cause of conflict for Iran because the US 5th Fleet is there, and there could be a naval warfare in this to do away with this choke points or the closure of the straits. Now, what Iran is going to do is that they're going to mine the sea out here. Mining will be there, and they are very good at asymmetric naval warfare. In this naval warfare, they've got the fast boats, the patrol boats, anti-shipping, anti-mines, this thing. So that is the one which US, if it gets into the naval warfare here, they'll have to take care of this part of it to overcome Iran, because they're pretty good in this asymmetric naval warfare. Also, the Gulf of Oman is also going to suffer, because Oman out there is also an oil exporter, and also will be affected as a Bab el-Mandeb, another choke point. So this entire export line into the Arabian Sea and onto the Indian Ocean is going to be affected by the step of Iran. Now, Qatar is an LNG, liquidized natural gas exporter. That is also going to get affected. And at the moment, I think the $150 per barrel is the cost which is again going to cause a greater shock to the people. So this is how these, what I want to say is that in this time, in this today's world, maritime choke points are no longer just routes. They are strategic battlegrounds. And so this is going to be a new area of conflict, and America, having warned Iran not to escalate, or they will be dealt with prohibitive damage or retaliation, is something I think Iranian parliament would have taken the stock of before taking the decision of closure of the Hormuz Straits. Over to you.
Absolutely, because what we're learning is that the bulk of, in fact, as far as the oil shipments are concerned, be it Saudi, Iraq, UAE, Qatar, Iran, Kuwait, they all pass through this. Whether India will lose sleep on this is something that remains to be seen. But stay on with us. In fact, we have another breaking news coming in. What we're learning is just a while back, explosions were heard at the Bushehr province, which is home to a key nuclear reactor. In fact, what we're learning is that this nuclear reactor is being run by Iran with the assistance of Russians as well. So let me come across to you once again, Major General SVP Singh. It appears that after destroying 3 nuclear facilities, now US and Iran are keeping their eye on this specific nuclear reactor that is in Bushehr province. This appears to be escalating because on one hand, US and Israel, they have attacked Iran. Iran has also retaliated, and now it appears that they are also eyeing more such nuclear reactors there.
You see, this morning, when we got the news of the 3 nuclear sites have been dealt with or destroyed by the American B-2 bomber action, it was a sort of what my own assumption was, that Russia, having spoken to America, Putin perhaps with Trump, they did not attack Bushehr nuclear site because the Russians are there. It is their nuclear power plant. But now this news which comes up, that means it has been a follow-up of what Iran has done by launching strikes into Israel post the bomber strikes, the B-2 bomber strikes. So this is an after effect of that. So I think then if Iran is going to take these steps of escalating the ladder, these reactive retaliations will come from Israel. Now, how much of this missile attacks Iran will be able to continue to carry is a moot point. Because as per my own calculation, I feel between 2,000 to 3,000 missile stock was available with Iran, out of which I think about 500 missiles would have been fired minimum. It could be more because this is a guesswork. But what is at premium also for Iran when they're dealing and carrying out this is the missile launchers. They are expected to have, or it's appreciated, they got about 350 missile launchers plus minus. And in this attrition of the last 9 days, the war, there would have been attrition, and say about 30% of the attrition would have taken place. Now, if that is so, Iran has to be very careful if they want to keep escalating their ladder of war, how much they can fight how much is their production capacity existing, how much has been their industry damage in this 9-day war. They have to take stock for themselves. You see the other side, when we look at it, Israel also, for the intercept missiles, they were at premium for the ammunition. So, but then they have got the American support and the replenishments will come. So with that, I think both sides at the moment have to watch out. Iran having asked for UN Security Council meeting and sent out some other messages for talks, and maybe the UN Security Council may just be a helpful note to get the parties for talks, for which the world will be a better place, the region would be a better place, and I would say Iran too would be a better place, because Iran has suffered lot of devastation and destruction in this 9 days of war. And not that Israel has not. Israel has also suffered. Never before have they suffered this sort of damages and destruction ever since it came into existence in 1948.
Absolutely, absolutely. Major General SVP Singh, let me also introduce Dan Pfefferman, who's been the former IDF major. Thank you so much for speaking to Republic TV. I want to ask you, and this is what the latest details is what we have gotten, is that another nuclear reactor in Iran, there were some blasts that were reported just a while back. So my question to you is Israel Army as well as US also targeting other nuclear reactors as well? 3 of them have been destroyed. Now, is the eye also on this nuclear reactor in Bushehr province?
I'm not aware of another nuclear reactor that's been struck, but of course Iran has a widespread nuclear program and different installations and research sites and that all feed into the main program. And so of course Israel's plan of attack has not ceased. The Americans came in and did what only the Americans can do, utilizing the GBU-57 bunker busters. But Israel's plans are going to continue on schedule and on pace until they either run out of targets or we reach some kind of diplomatic solution to this escalation.
Absolutely. It remains to be seen how it pans out in the coming days. But I request both of you to stay on with us. We have a breaking news coming in. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps affiliated Fars news agency has cited sources saying that Iran's response to the United States strikes on its nuclear facilities will be to quote-unquote carry out a surprise operation against Israel while continuing to monitor the US bases in the region. The sources also added that Iran's main focus is to eliminate the Zionist regime as the original base of America. So this is, in fact, the breaking news that we're getting for you as far as the conflict is concerned. Let me once again bring in Dan Pfefferman. I want to ask you, now it appears as far as Iran is concerned, they are saying that there will be surprise attacks on Israel. In the last 12 hours, we have seen that after the nuclear facilities were attacked, there have been few attacks in Israel. But what they are now insinuating is that there will be much more surprise attack on Israel, while they will be keeping an eye on the United States assets in that region as well. How do you assess the statement that has come from them?
Well, they're clearly threatening an escalation against Israel and, of course, now against American interests in the region. And it's going to play out in the coming days, possibly longer. They're going to possibly ramp up the scope of their attacks. I could tell you that they would try to hit civilian sites, but that's all they've been doing for the last week is firing their missiles at civilian areas. So I'm not sure what an escalation means from them. Are they going to go after Israeli ports? Are they going to continue going after the airport? None of this is new for us, of course. We've had this happening for the last 620 days as Iran's proxies, plus Iran itself on 2 separate occasions, has fired massive volleys, but they could ramp up their attacks on Israeli interests, maybe Israeli embassies. We know that they have in the past and will again try to hit perhaps Jewish communities around the world. It just came out yesterday that the terrorist attack was thwarted against the Jewish community in Cyprus. And that is something that we're always on the watch for Iran, always, whether directly now or generally indirectly through its proxies. It's constantly conducting different kinds of terrorist attacks or militia attacks and now missile attacks against Israel, Israeli interests, and even Jewish communities in the region and around the world.
Absolutely. Let me bring in Major General SVP Singh. One more question before I let both of you go. How do you see this, in fact, the conflict and now what it is being called a war go on in the next 1 week? Or do you think this is going to escalate, whether there be ceasefire? Because this is something China has thought. They have requested both the nations to have a ceasefire. But how do you see it pan out in the coming week?
The way the war is taking place, I think it is daily basis. Each day is going to give you the answer, okay, what is going to be the next day. Now, in the instant case, what has happened today, last night, American attacks, Iran continuing to escalate the ladder by attacking Israeli targets on the soil. What is of point to note is that the regime in Iran is showing itself to be brave, determined, and strong to its own domestic audience, that they want to stand up. And that will perhaps give them the staying power. There's no regime replacement. There's no regime change. So that will be weighing heavily in the minds of the current regime. And so they will continue to fire missiles as they have done. They have also taken the step, as we have just covered, closure of the Straits of Hormuz. And Houthis have come in support of Iran, the only axis of resistance power which has come to their support, having declared that all American shipping, whether it is military or civil commercial shipping, will be their legal targets. However, Houthis are best advised to know that yes, military warships remain the targets, but commercial shippings are protected in wartime like any such thing. Other is that in 1988 Iraq-Iran war, in 1984, Iran had practiced the tanker war concept. Now that could also come to play up in Iranian minds in these next few days, which you say 7 days, but it is anyone's guess. Yes, America has also, I think, taken special care of its 8 bases in the Arabian states, because those could be targeted, because they are within the short-range missiles capability of the Iranians. So all these are the vital targeting areas or objectives which are available with Iran, and US and Israel have to take guard on that. Having said that much, the deployment which has come in the Arabian Sea, in the Indian Ocean, and in the Arab states from the United States side, with the F-16s, F-22, F-35s, and the 3 carrier strike groups, it is a very massive deployment. So Iran will not be able to achieve much militarily, as per my appreciation. Over to you.
Absolutely. It remains to be seen how it pans out, whether there'll be escalation or de-escalation. It'll be very interesting to see that. Thank you so much, Major General SVP Singh and Dan Pfefferman, for speaking to Republic TV. Now, the Israeli Defense Forces have released a new black and white footage that shows its strike on Iranian soldiers and missile launchers. And this comes amid the rising tensions in West Asia. The United States has officially inserted themselves in the war between Iran and Israel by attacking 3 Iranian nuclear sites. Here's the full report.
Tensions in West Asia are rising high. Israel Defense Forces has released a fresh black and white footage that shows various aerial videos of IDF strikes on Iranian soldiers and missile launchers. The Israeli military said that its air force struck 2 F-5 fighter jets belonging to the Iranian armed forces at the De-Escalation airport in Iran. The video shows IDF strikes on primed Iranian ballistic missile launchers shortly before Iran's attack this morning. Earlier today, the US launched strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites.
A short time ago, the US military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror.
The Atomic Energy Organization of Iran confirmed that the US attacks took place on its Fordo, Isfahan and Natanz sites. After those attacks, Iran fired one of its biggest ballistic missiles targeting Israel. But most were unsuccessful and intercepted by Israel. As the war in West Asia continues, both countries stand their ground. No de-escalation efforts in sight.
And the US military strike on Iran may have serious consequences for the Indian economy as well. Foreign affairs expert Robinder Sachdev breaks down how escalating tensions in the Gulf region may trigger a spike in the global oil prices, push up inflation and potentially slow India's GDP growth as well. Given that nearly 20% of the world's crude oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz, a key choke point, any disruption can severely impact India's energy security and the stability as well. Should Indians be concerned? How could industry, trade and consumers be affected? Watch this to know more.
This is an escalation, and an escalation to which it seems there will be no end. The situation will worsen, go up and down, etc. It seems that the region of Middle East will now be plunged into forever wars. See, all it means is that US will continue bombarding some strategic sites because Iran is not going to submit and will not throw up its arms and say that, okay, we plead for ceasefire. Iran will fight back with whatever resources it has. It will retaliate. However, it doesn't have much of a capacity, but it will still attempt to do whatever the best it can. See, in any case, Israel is going to continue its bombardments, its missiles, its airstrikes. Iran will keep on retaliating with, of course, much depleted strength as of now. Iran could also initiate some other vectors, especially in the Middle East, targeting American bases in Saudi Arabia or Qatar, to also draw in now the Saudis, the Gulf countries, so that they bring pressure on America to stop the war, because otherwise this whole region, including their own regimes in Saudi Arabia and other monarchies, Jordan, Egypt, Qatar, may be in danger themselves. See, Donald Trump is correct in saying that tonight's attack was a spectacular attack by the American army forces, but he is wrong in saying that this attack has eliminated the entire nuclear program of Iran. It has not. All it has done, yes, in these three locations, maybe it has, not maybe, certainly to some extent we will know, damage the physical laboratories, equipments, plant machinery of these facilities. The Iranians have already transferred the uranium, though it is not weapon grade, but whatever enriched uranium they had, it seems they've distributed and hidden it in some other locations. But yes, a major blow to Iran's nuclear program has been delivered, but it does not mean that the entire nuclear program of Iran has been obliterated. See, Netanyahu, for him, it has been his life's mission to neutralize Iran. So he is thanking Trump and saying that Trump has done something great for civilization. Yes, what he is saying is also that I have done something great for civilization, which history will remember for generations. It is Netanyahu's legacy that he is building up. Yes, of course, in that journey, he needed the help of Trump, and he has been able to draw in American forces towards his mission of neutralizing Iran. If Iran closes the Straits of Hormuz, definitely India suffers. About 20% of the world's crude oil and 25% of the world's natural gas flows through these. Qatar's gas, which we buy, almost all flows through this, right? Kuwaiti oil, 70% of Saudi oil comes through the Straits of Hormuz. If that happens, which is expected, India will suffer because oil prices will go up, inflation will rise, and there is an estimate that for every $10 increase in the price of crude oil, India's GDP will suffer by 0.5%. So right now oil is around 75, 80, it may jump to 90, 100, 110. So if it jumps by around $20, $30, it means about 1% to 1.5% of India's GDP growth will be shaved off.
And Iran executed its most significant missile attack of the year against Israel early this morning as part of Operation True Promise 3. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps confirmed the strikes were launched in response to recent US and Israeli airstrike on the Iranian territory, marking a dangerous escalation in the ongoing West Asian conflict that has now entered the second week. Watch this.
Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard said it has launched 40 missiles, including its Khorramshahr 4 missile, targeting Ben Gurion Airport, biological research centers, and command and control facilities. Iran has said that the Khorramshahr 4 carry multiple warheads. The Khorramshahr 4 has the heaviest payload of Iran's ballistic missile fleet, which is designed to keep the weapon under a 2,000-kilometer range limit imposed by the country's supreme leader. The missile has been described as having a 2,000-kilometer range with a 1,500-kilogram warhead. Earlier in the day, the US military struck 3 sites in Iran, inserting itself into Israel's effort to decapitate Iran's nuclear program. The decision to directly involve the US comes after more than a week of strikes by Israel that have moved to systematically eradicate the country's air defenses while damaging its nuclear enrichment facilities.